Golfers are deliberately trying to hit Libertad residents on their vehicles. These events are happening more and more frequently. This is causing serious damage to vehicles, such as the shattered car window last night from a malicious golfer, and it is threatening the safety of our Libertad residents. Golfers get very near the property and aim their shots at residents. When the golfer comes on the property to retrieve the golf ball that he just tried to use as an assault weapon, he then berates any resident within earshot with F-bombs, while also saying that they're low-income trash and that we should get a job. He doesn't care that he's addressing a wounded combat vet that took a bullet to the head, a retired business owner, or two people who work full-time. Attempted assault from golfers is not limited to those who play golf proper by paying for a golf game during regular business hours for the golf course. It also includes people who sneak on the golf course at night to deliberately hit golf balls at the apartments. It includes golfers that take buckets of golf balls up the hill to the Canyon View Water Tower and try to assault people and property with their golf balls from the top of the hill. There is animosity towards the people who live at Libertad, even though none of the residents of Libertad had anything to do with the zoning, planning, building, or leasing of the property at all. Golfers are literally targeting innocent men, women, children, and pets in their frustration over the completion of a building they did not want. So I suggest to you that we try to maybe put up a net, maybe along the golf course, maybe along the water tower, increase police patrols, though if there's an emergency, please ignore us and go do the emergency. It worries me as a resident because people do die from getting hit with golf balls. Golf balls go off that tee at something like 135 miles an hour. And they're doing it deliberately, on purpose. They're trying to hurt us for our address, for what they think is our income level. So that's where we are with this. And to us, it's a giant deal. Other people think, oh, it doesn't happen that much, but it's enough to where we're here. So thank you. And I'll get you a copy. Okay, can you make a copy? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thank you.
So where did,
Comment? Oh, I'm sorry, Terry.
Hold on.
well, go ahead and make your comment. I was just going to ask, where we go with this, who's going to address it, and we need to give them some help.
I'd just like to say thank you for
You
Scott.
still didn't say
Tom
your
Jett.
name.
I pulled a.
You'd think you'd know.
Yeah, you'd think I would remember by now. I thank you for what Scott Phillips said. It's absolutely, undeniably, unarguably truthful. What I'm not an advocate for the affordable housing project. I'm not a proponent of it. I'm just pretty much neutral. But what a lot of people do need to understand is that is not all affordable income housing. There's a portion of it is for the way down, a portion of it's for the middle, and a portion of it's for people that pay fair market rates for that property. And so anybody that's looking at that, keep in mind when they see the quote white trash or get a job, they may have a job. They may be paying market rates for those units that they're up there. That doesn't excuse doing it to people that aren't, but people need to understand that is not just a low-income housing project. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Back to, did you have anything else to add, Terry?
No, I was just wondering who takes the lead on this, what we can do.
We
if
can
Bittman
follow up
will-
with Peggy because we have some other items to discuss with you, bigger picture too. And so let's get together in the near future and we can have Darren and Paul and a number of us to discuss kind of
Yeah,
other-
needs to be sooner than later.
Yeah,
Like
so-
this is happening often out there now. So
just shoot Paul or I an email.
And education. We've got to educate people about this.
And then we can discuss a whole bunch of things as well. Okay. Are there
Thank you.
other council comments? No? All right. Then we will move to staff comments.
Ken Nielsen, Leisure Services. I just wanted to, I know I've shown this, I think I emailed you folks before, but these came today, these A-frames from our folks at Iron County Prevention. There's 12 of those that we can put at any events that we so choose. We have the 25 signs that will be more permanent at venues that we'll put up at the lake and the parks and those venues that we need to that are permanent. These are just some A-frames that they did so we can put them parking lots or Main Street or wherever we need them. And I just
Great
wanted to
idea.
make those available. They'll be at the Aquatic Center, so I'll be happy to get to whoever needs those.
So an event organizer could at least contact you and see about using them for
Yeah.
their event.
Heidi kept several for their events at Iron County, so she has those, and then I'll just keep these 12 at the Aquatic Center, and anybody that desires to have these at their events, I'm happy to get it to them.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other staff comments at this point?
Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment. We had a lady come in a couple weeks ago about the intersection out at Eagle Ridge subdivision and the signage that was put up. We went ahead and done a study on that intersection as far as the traffic counts going through there. And we went out there and did those traffic counts in the morning when people were going to work and going to school. That's kind of going to be your high traffic time. And the counts we got out there is 26 cars per hour going through that intersection. To warrant for a four-way stop, you need 300 cars per hour going through that intersection.
Is South Mountain back open? Because I'm not sure it's a true representative if that isn't open yet.
Well, there's not, it's not open yet, and there's not that much traffic that goes out South Mountain because it's really tore up right now, South Mountain Drive.
That's what I mean. When we get that open, I'm wondering if we
Yeah.
need to relook at
Yeah.
that because
There's a lot of cars that
they're
come off
talking
of
about the
Westview.
through traffic and,
Yeah.
But it's going to be pretty difficult to get 300 cars an hour going through that intersection.
oh yeah, we're not going to get to there, but I think it's a little more.
But it might be
So-
helpful for us to at least have the correct data when we get that road reopened, so we can show.
But
Kit, do
thank
we-
you for
So
following
they
up so quickly on that part.
They had asked about like the selection of where the stop sign, which direction. Would it help if the stop sign was coming, if you're coming into there, heading towards South Mountain instead of having a yield sign there? Because they were concerned about how they come through. They never have to make a stop all the way to Westview. And I don't know if it would help to reverse those, what your thoughts are there.
And look at that. I mean, they still got to do certain things when they approach a yield sign that should slow them down also.
Right.
So, but we can look at that and see.
But they're not.
Okay, thank you.
Something else to add, Paul?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of cars. I think of even this four-way stop on Cove Drive. Do we have 300 cars an hour on that? I guess we probably do, but it's, I think I can think of a lot of four-way stops. You wonder if there's really that many cars of those and how they got approved, but.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Oh, just so you know, we have got the camera up and working again just a little bit ago. So.
Good.
All right. Are there any other staff comments? Okay, then we will move on to our public agenda with our public comment portion. If there's anyone that would like to address the council. Just please state your name.
Hello, my name is John Donner. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association, for which I am a volunteer. We are trying to stand up a support group in this area for caregivers of people who have Alzheimer's. So we're hosting an informational meeting on August 22nd at the Cedar City Library. That's a Thursday at 5:30 p.m. I have a little flyer I can give to the council if they want, and if anybody in the community is interested in that, then I'm a point of contact out here for that.
What
Thank
time
you.
was that, John?
That's at 5:30 p.m. August 22nd, Thursday. It would be great to have anybody from the city, basically, in any kind of leadership capacity.
Aren't you doing a walk in October?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Can we get,
Yes, I would like one.
That I don't have, I'm sorry.
can I get a copy of that for
Yes.
our minutes?
It's October 12th,
Thank you so much.
I think.
John,
The walk.
can we
Yeah, the
have
walk.
a copy also?
Do you have
Okay,
enough, John?
Yeah, do you have enough? Do we need to share?
We can share.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we can share.
We can share.
I've written down the information, so.
we'll see if you've learned.
Well-
City Library. Okay, that's all I need.
I may have an excuse.
You still have to say your name.
Tom Jett.
Some
The-
people,
the,
some people's
um,
children.
I wanted, this will be quick. This last week, we had 2 major drug arrests on the I-15 corridor. Many people do not know that the I-15 corridor is probably one of the largest drug corridors in the nation. It has to rank up there very close to the top. I'm not sure if I don't think our city police department was directly involved with this routine traffic stop that resulted in the catching of some people carrying some terrible poison from one place to another. But kudos to our law enforcement that do this every day and that are trained to see and to be wise and see some of the people, what they're doing and carrying some of that stuff and ridden it from the street. That probably saved a lot of lives, ridden that from.
Or Chief Adams, sorry.
Darren Adams, Police Department. Yeah, so we had a company reach out to us, and Sergeant Pollock has been the one that has taken care of this. And I know that Kelsey and him have communicated about an article. But yeah, vest was donated to K9 Max. That's Officer Lovell's dog, who he's brought in before, which will provide protection, ballistic protection when they go out. So those are expensive, as you well know, and so that's a nice donation to have. So we're appreciated.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were all aware that that had happened.
Hey, just a question, John, could you create an event on social media that we could share for that Alzheimer's?
Yeah, so I'll reach out to Mike Miller because he's actually staff at Alzheimer's
Okay.
Association.
But that'd be nice, and then we could just share it and help you promote
Yeah.
it. That'd be awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other public comments? No. Okay, then we will move on with our business agenda with our public portion. Item number 1, consider single event alcohol permit for a beer garden at the Iron Games Fitness Festival on September 6, 2019. I didn't see Heather, so do you want to come and give a rundown?
Darren Adams with the Police Department. We received a request from Heather Allen. They're doing the Iron Games Fitness Festival here on Main Street on September 6th. This is a shutdown of the major corridor there, just like we've had for July Jamboree. I don't know all the details, but I do know that the name says it all. Iron Games Fitness, so CrossFit competitions and things of that nature, where they want to be able to serve
So
spirits.
is CrossFit sponsoring this? Who?
Yes, I don't know.
Do you want me to give a little more
Please.
information on that?
You probably
So
know
what
more.
it's doing is it's the Utah Summer Games has been focused on children type events. This is a new component that they're doing in conjunction and partnership with the half marathon. It's called the Iron Games. And so it's more of the CrossFit, the type of things that are the super fit adults. And then the Saturday of this, they think the event starts on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday's the half marathon. So it's all in conjunction that weekend to try to do another type of sporting event that's kind of targeted towards another demographic that we haven't necessarily hit in the past. And with the tying in with our half.
So it's under the aegis of the summer game.
From what they told me is it's the summer games are kind of who's doing the Iron Game portion. So they'll do one day on Main Street and then the rest of the events will be on campus and at different venues.
But this beer garden is going to be in a similar location to where, like it's been for July Jamboree.
That's
is
that's
the
my
idea?
understanding.
Not on the main street, but in that parking lot
Correct.
area. Okay.
And that one,
I can get clarification on that, but that's my
Yeah,
understanding.
that's what they've
For
told
next
me. And
week.
they were
I think
going to
that's
do
what
it
it's,
like a sports festival, come and watch some of the event take place, have vendors, have a different
Oh, I'm sorry.
thing
Yes, it says parking lot.
Down
east.
the
to
application.
get
It says right there.
the community involved with some of the competition, but also have vendors and stuff as well.
So yeah, did a background on Heather and no concerns there. So we give a positive recommendation. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Questions? Are you good with that going on consent? Would you like more information or?
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
It sounds like it's more of an off season and a good way to get some people to come to town and
Well, I'm looking, the 6th is a Friday. Are they closing Main Street on a Friday?
that part, I don't know.
Interesting.
Perhaps we need a little more clarification next week, but I think we're good going on.
I just,
Have Sergeant Pollock address that because he is right in the.
I was gonna say, I know that the half marathon portion Saturday.
Right.
Clint Pollock with the police department. I've been kind of working with Brigham and Todd with this event. They are shutting down Main Street. They want it shut down at about 10:30 in the morning on a Friday. So we're just trying to work on a traffic management plan with them. They're going to have it shut down until about 11 p.m. that night.
Are there any other questions related to?
Do my shopping before that.
Okay. So you still good with this on consent? Yes? Okay. Consider vicinity plan for Northfield Estate subdivision phase 1 through 5. I don't know who's speaking on somebody from Windmill here. Yeah. All right, Tyler, you're up on this one. There isn't anyone else here. Or Dawn.
Got that done?
I was like,
Well, if
I'll
nobody
Don,
can talk about
Tyler?
it, we should move it on if we can't talk about it.
So the applicant's not here. It's pretty
you
straightforward.
still have to say your name too.
Donald Boudreau, Engineering Division. It's zoned R22. It's, I think it's 56 twin home lots. Meets zoning ordinance, meets the lot width, density. It's pretty straightforward.
Similar to what's around.
Exactly.
Is this agricultural currently, or is it?
It's vacant property now.
Okay.
Mhm.
My question is how much water and, what the water use is for that property now as opposed to what this will be with these homes.
I don't have that data currently.
When they come through final plat approval, they'll have to bring in the necessary water in order to get that.
Yeah, they'll have to bring in their water rights or pay their acquisition fees.
Okay.
Okay. Are there,
Any other questions?
Seems backwards to me.
okay. You good with that on consent? Okay. Item number 3, public hearing to consider disposing of city property located at 55 East 900 North.
Hi, Paul Bittman, City Administration. I made a mistake in your write-up. So we'll start there. So this is the piece of property we're asking for permission to dispose of. Says 1.629 acres on here. In your write-up, I put about 1.3.
3.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Anyway, the Forest Service came to us and asked us if we would dispose of this property. They're in the process of sprucing up and tearing down old buildings on their old Forest Service property and building a new building. And in conjunction with that, we went to them and said, we want this right away for 100 East. And then Mr. Jett was kind enough to vacate the lease he had on this property. And this is the next step. We're going to ask you for your permission to dispose of the property. We probably won't complete the process for another 6 months or so. That's not because we're extremely slow. It's because the Forest Service needs time to do what the Forest Service needs to do to get all of their funds appropriated and everything else. So when we go to dispose of the property, we will have it appraised. We will put it out for bid. It doesn't automatically go to the Forest Service, but they're the guys that requested the disposal, so we're going to wait for their timetable.
Does it change the plan if the Forest Service does not get the property? Because they clearly want it for parking. So
Yeah.
if somebody else purchases the property, what does that do to our 100 East project and their need for their property?
Cedar City Corporation is in control of who Cedar City Corporation sells the property to.
And we can
Yeah.
stipulate whatever we want.
So if we don't want to sell it to somebody else because they're going to use the property for some other purpose and we're not going to get 100 east, we can say no.
All depends on how much they're willing to pay, I guess, huh?
Yeah. So just so you know a little bit about Forest Service's process, before they can buy property, they have to also have it appraised. They have to have a yellow book appraisal, which is way more detailed than the appraisals we do. Looks into more depth on property issues than a normal appraisal would. So they'll commission a yellow book appraisal. Everybody will know how much it's worth before we dispose of it. Typically, when we dispose of property, we seek fair market value. I don't remember a bidding war, do you, Kit, on our property that we've disposed? I've never ran into that, but I suppose it could happen.
Will you just briefly kind of go through the process from here through the end of disposing of property?
Sure. So if the council votes next week to go forward with the disposal, we'll put it out to an appraisal company to come in and appraise it. Actually, we'll probably wait a few months and then have it appraised. And then we'll publish a request for proposals. We'll send a copy to the Forest Service because they're the guys that asked in the first place, which is what we would do with anybody else. When the RFPs come back in, we'll come back to the council and say, here's the RFPs. This is what they're offering. This is what the appraisal says the property's worth. Tack on a premium to cover our costs for the appraisals. And then we'll ask the council if you want to sell it or not. That's yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
so
it.
even starting this doesn't mean that it's for sure you're selling it, all of that. It's just,
No, I know. Forest Service has been working on this project for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Any
Thank you.
are there any other questions, comments?
Thanks.
So it shows the restaurant, but it doesn't show MCO Tire, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. MCO would be right.
It's right there.
right here.
Okay.
Yeah. And this building, everybody's taking a picture in front of that building, I think.
That's turned into the trendy picture spot.
Yeah. That's that old, I don't know if it's an old shed or barn type structure that's, if you blow on it really hard, it might fall over. So be careful if you go take
It was
pictures over
used
there.
by UDOT back in the 40s.
Lots of wedding pictures.
Wade
there.
stored some lawnmowers in there this past winter. Thank God they got them out without.
It's been wedding
Anyway.
and prom pictures.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's cool.
We're gonna
Okay.
find a new spot. now.
Are you good with that going on consent?
Yeah.
Thank you all. Oh, whoops, hold on.
that a
We need to have a
public
public hearing for
You get
this.
100 each.
So we will now open the public hearing if anyone would like to address the council on this item. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, then put it on consent. Okay, item number 4, public hearing to consider an ordinance changing the zone from Annex transition to industrial and manufacturing 2 for property located 951 Northland Highway.
Good evening, Dallas Buckner, Go Civil. So this is a 2-acre parcel off Lund Highway in between 56 and 1600. It's currently zoned Annex transition. We're applying for a zone change to INM 2, which is in conformance with the general plan. There's an existing building on there, which is right there, and the existing use is supported by the INM 2. So
This is on the west side of the road, correct?
it is, yep. So airport is right across.
Is the beginning address 951? Where does it end? I mean, I'm just wondering how far north the property goes.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, 951 West Northland
it's-
Highway. I'm just wondering.
So, yeah, so 1600 is, I think it's around 1400 feet to the north. So it's almost right in the middle between,
Okay.
between,
We
Isn't
have
that,
lots of residential starting to go in around 1600 north and they're above, and I just
yeah,
wanted to see
it's
how
quite
far
a
it
bit
is.
south. So if we look at, so it's this building right here. And so equestrian is,
Equestrian's at
Yeah.
1600, right? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, it's quite a
yeah, and then
distance.
there's
Okay.
1600 north right there.
That's what I
So
was trying to figure out how far.
fire station's right there on the corner.
Yeah.
I think the nearest residence is like a quarter mile
Okay,
by the road.
thank you, Dallas.
Yep.
Are there any other questions from the council? No? Okay, then we will open the public hearing on this item. If there's anyone that would like to address the council? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing and move this to our action agenda. Okay, item number 5, consider final plat approval for Sycamores Trail PUD Phase 4.
Dallas Buckner, go civil.
See, Tom, you need to learn from Dallas.
So this is a final plat. Originally, we brought the vicinity plan through for the whole piece, but then we decided to phase it. So this is going to be Sycamore Trails Phase 4. The whole parcel is 7 acres. Phase 4 is 5 acres right there. And so go a little bit to the north. Let's see. So this is Sycamore Trails phases 1, 2, and 3 right there. Sycamore Trail Phase 4 is this little square right there. So it's across Lund Highway and a little bit to the northwest. Right there. 38 units is what we have on there. Any questions?
More of the same. More of the same that's already out that way.
So these are going to be
Sycamore.
single-story duplexes. So they're not going to be the townhomes or the single-family residences. So slightly different, but still a part of the PUD and same HOA.
Okay.
So the city's received everything it needs from payment of fees, the CCNRs. We got the bond agreement letter credit. So everything on my side is good to move forward.
So these are single family duplexes, is that what you said?
Yes, they're going to be duplexes,
Single story.
single story.
Any other comments, questions? Good with that going on consent?
Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll move to our staff portion with item number 6, consider blanket contract for sewer line repair and replacement.
Eric Bonzo, wastewater superintendent. Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's good to be here. Every 2 years, we request bid proposals for our blanket contract for our sewer line repair and replacement. We went out again this year. It was advertised per city policy on the website, added in the newspaper. We received one bid proposal back. This bid proposal came from John Orton Excavating. They're the same company that we've used the last 8 years in our sewer repairs. They do a fantastic job. Their safety is remarkable. They just do a good job for us. If we're ever in an emergency, we need them on spot. They stop what they're doing on other jobs and they're right there for us. They've been just a great benefit. After looking at these proposals from the old to the new, I see very minimal increase at all. There's a little bit on the Strongback Fernco couplers for the transition from clay pipe to PVC, but overall it's very, very minimal. So I was quite impressed on that. So I would recommend to the council that we go with John Orton Excavating.
That was my only question with one bid. I just didn't know what comparisons we had, but if we've compared it to the prior year
Yeah,
and the costs are reasonably.
like I said, it's very, very minimal.
Okay.
So
And is this a 2-year then contract that we'd be signing with them?
it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Are there any other comments, questions? Do you have specific questions on any of the items? No? Okay, we good with that going on consent?
Yes, thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, consider amendments to the airport rules and regulations.
Nick Holt, Airport Manager. I've got 2 items on the agenda tonight. The first one is the amendment to the rules and regulations and minimum standards. The first change that was made, the changes that we made were to help the airport to be more in line with the industry standards and also the federal regulations. The first change that was made was for approval. Let's see, approval of construction. This is going to require new hangars that are constructed to abide by all government standards and regulations and follow the NFPA the National Fire Protection Agency's regulations. They came out with some new regulations on how long the burn rate needs to be to protect
Nick, is this the
hangars.
one that's in
So-
section 10, approval of construction? It
This
was
is, yep.
highlighted. Okay, I just want to make sure I was looking at the right thing.
Yep. So I believe the new regulation is going to require a hangar owner to have a 45-minute burn rate on their exterior walls. And so there's a couple ways that a hangar owner could do that. They could do a double wall with insulation. That would create the 45-minute burn rate. Another option is to have 30 feet between lots. So a total of 60 feet between the hangars would provide that. So there's a couple options for the hangar owner. Our next one is in Chapter 3, Section 1, Special Events, page 19. This is a change to meet TSA regulations. It requires anybody that's going to hold a community event out on the airfield that they provide 90 days notice to airport management. This way that we can do a change condition to our security plan. This is only if we have commercial service on the ground.
Can you give, what kind of examples would be a special event we'd hold there besides city fireworks?
So we've got city fireworks. We have fly-ins that happen. We've got sometimes we've got fundraisers where the Boy Scouts will do a breakfast dinner where people will fly in and have
So
breakfast.
we need to remember to,
And
we
so-
need to remember that because that's our ward does that. So
Yep,
So you need 90 days in advance of any of those kind of events,
that's
correct?
September.
that's correct.
Does that
I believe I've already been notified on that.
Have you? Okay.
does that include like if SU Aviation is holding a community event to look at their aircraft, or if a private hangar owner is doing family reunions or any of that kind of stuff?
Yes, if it happens while a commercial service is on the ground, they would be required to do that. We've already
Just
notified.
commercial service, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we work off of a partial security plan, which is only active while we have commercial aircraft on the ground. So.
Okay.
So if they don't have time to do that, we've only got 3 flights right now. So normally we can work with the individual and schedule it around the flight times to get around this 90-day requirement.
And is this indicative of other airports? Is this a federal sort of
Yeah, it's
mandate? Is this similar? We're just coming into compliance.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then Chapter 3, Section 6, airport leases are non-transferable. So when somebody comes out and builds a hangar on the airport, they lease the ground underneath it. Some of these leases are long-term leases up to 45 years. And so if somebody comes and purchases a hangar, what it does is it allow the airport to enter a new lease agreement with the individual that's purchasing the hangar at the current rates that you guys have set. So on our land leases. Chapter 4, Section 1, fixed-based operators. This is a section in our minimum standards. Some of these sections, or some of these changes were increased, some of them were decreased. It just brings it in line with what the industry requires. And we've been seeing a lot more jet traffic coming in and out. And so one of the changes was that we're going to require the FBO to provide oxygen. It's one of the things that a commercial jet operator will look at to see if we have that capability. And it may be a decision factor whether they come to our airport or go to somewhere else where they can get that service. So those were the changes that we made.
Nick, what do you mean provide oxygen?
So whenever an airplane flies over 12,500 feet, it either needs to be a pressurized cabin or a pilot can carry a cylinder of oxygen. And if they're flying above 12,500 feet, about longer than 30 minutes, then it's a regulation that they've got to be on oxygen so that the pilot doesn't pass out.
So would the FBO just have the cylinders?
They'll have a big cylinder that they can refill the smaller cylinders.
And have all these been through the airport board?
Yeah, all these changes have been through the airport board and recommended by the airport board.
Are there any other comments or questions?
No.
All right. This will end up being a resolution, so it will go on the action agenda. All right. Item number 8, consider approval of funding for airport approach lighting through FAA grant in 2020.
Okay. Yep, this is for we're going to be entering into a reimbursable agreement that the city's already has a reimbursable agreement. This is for our runway project in 2020. This project was supposed to happen last year. The city and the council's already approved for, in your attachments. In this agreement, the city's already paid $23,887.69. I've got to seek approval to be refunded, file for a refund or repayment on this. With this new agreement, that was for the design. This new agreement or the amendment to this agreement, where we are seeking funding in the figure of $1,269,902.78 will cover the approach lighting, which is part of our part of the approach coming into the airport. It's the lights out in front of the runway that guides the airplane and helps them line up with the runway.
How will they be different than they are now?
They're going to raise up the north end of that runway, and so there's some changes there in elevations that had to happen.
Is it just on the airport property or across the creek and down?
It'll be across the creek and
all of it
down. Yep.
Okay.
So all of that. Your question, how will it change? It's going to be very similar to. It'll provide the same service that we already have, but our system is 20 years old, and if the dollar amount to change this out is extensive. So, and all this is refundable by the FAA if we tie it to our runway project. So if we don't approve it right now and we wait, then it would be up to the city to come up with that money, and the FAA wouldn't fund it.
And my question as I read all of this was just how sure a thing, I know there's no such thing as a sure thing, but what is our risk of not having that reimbursable or refundable? Is it, I mean, we have no firm contract with them.
So what I would be asking tonight is to approve this amount with the condition that we get funded for our runway project. If the runway project is funded, then it will be refunded in full to the city.
So I had similar questions. I didn't want us to sign this agreement and front this money, and then all of a sudden we don't get this grant assurance. So Nick and I spoke with a representative from the FAA today. He believed we'd have that grant assurance letter in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
So the thought was, if the council were to approve it, do it condition upon us receiving that first.
The reason why I didn't wait the 2 to 3 weeks is this is time sensitive and we need to keep it moving forward, because they've told me if they receive the money by the middle of September that we'll be able to plan and be able to complete this portion of the project along with the portion of the runway project during the same time that the commercial air service will be affected. If we wait and push off the funding, then we risk losing our air service for a longer period of time.
So both of these would happen during that runway reconstruction project then, if it's funded?
That's what we're trying to accomplish. That's what our challenge is.
And assuming that we do get the funding, what are the dates we looking at, or do we have a date yet when the airport is looked to be closed down?
Yeah, it's March 16th is when it starts, and it goes for 125 days on the main runway.
Okay.
I don't have the.
That's okay.
I
That's
don't
okay.
have the
But March
completion
16th,
date,
March 16th.
but that's for our main runway that will affect our commercial service.
Okay.
And that Sunrock has that contract, right?
They do. Yep.
One thing that, and I'm sure the engineers will be fully aware of this, but that where they go into the channel with the lighting, that's really close to that recharge inlet. I know Jeff's always been really concerned about the depth. They might want to go plenty deep. I've just watched them do maintenance in there and stuff. They've always worried about hitting something and be real bad.
Thank you.
Nick, could you update us a little on the air traffic since St. George's has been shut down? I know we've, got the commercial extra flight, but what about private aircraft using our airport?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I've
Give us
seen,
a little
we've seen a major increase both commercially and from our private jet aircraft. It's not uncommon to have 3 or 4 jets parked out in front of the FBO and St. George. A lot of those people wanted to still be able to access and use their aircraft, so they've come up and rented tie down spaces from us and have been there using our airport, and so it's been fun to see.
Seen a lot of
been busy.
a lot more jets flying in and out of here and go, that's a cool looking jet going over there.
Yeah,
Have the SkyWest jets been pretty full?
they have been pretty full. So tracking the numbers, we've doubled the passengers that we normally send out of here, even though we've only added 1 additional flight. So
that's
that
great.
tells me that the flights are going
great.
out pretty full.
That's great.
I also had a pilot that flies non-rev, and he said that he's been having to drive to Salt Lake because there hasn't been room for him to get on the aircraft to
We
get
had
to
any
work. So
further conversation with SkyWest with all of this going on about adding another flight permanently?
I briefly have, and that's a discussion that we need to continue to have. Right now, it doesn't look too promising. So
How's the parking worked out? I mean, I see them parked everywhere.
parking's been a challenge. I'm glad that we were able to put a couple lights out and the sidewalk to our unimproved overflow parking. That's been a help, but yeah, if this was going to be long term, we'd want to look at painting the curbs red and trying to control that a little bit
parking
closer.
everywhere, which is
It's been
needed.
it's been a little wild.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions?
Thank you, Nick, for this information.
We're going to put that one on the action so that we can get the
Yeah.
motion that states
Yep.
that needs to be conditioned on everything.
Good.
All right. What?
I said thanks, Nick.
Oh, item number 9, recycling program update.
Good evening, Ryan Marshall, Public Works Director. So you have a write-up on this, gives you a little bit of a history about our recycling efforts here in Cedar City. We've had the Benny program in place for probably about, I think it was 2010 is when it first came into place here. And at that point, we were paying around $1,600 a month for that service. Over the few years that it's been here, that price has just continued to go up and up and up. And I'm sure many of you have probably read the articles that you've seen from St. George with Washington County and their recycling challenges that they have right now. The Rocky Mountain Recycling Center that accepts all of this recycled material and then sells that and ships that off has come in and is not taking that material any longer. And so what Washington County is having to do is transport that material to Las Vegas for the time being until they finish their contract, and then they're going to evaluate what they do there with their recycling efforts. As a result of that, they've come to us and they've increased our pricing for recycling starting this month. So it's a little bit new to us this month, or I would have gotten this in the budget, but we had been paying last year $3,000 a month for the Benny program. They're kicking that up to $5,300 a month. So it's a very significant increase. So we need to make a decision. Do we want to increase our budget and continue on with this service, or do we want to look at alternative services? We had talked about this a little bit in the budget process. We talked about what alternatives there are. We do have a recycler here in town Recyclops that does a curbside service. It's a private company that does that. We could refer all of our current residents to them. I have approached them and asked them if they want to do a bid on a Benny type program that would be cheaper than what Washington County is providing us. They've said with the shutdown of Rocky Mountain, they do not want to bid on that kind of a process. They did say that if the city is open to it, they'd be willing to work with us on a partnership to do a curbside, but we would have to do either a mandatory or an opt-out type program where everybody is automatically put into that. They said if that's something that we want to pursue, that they can work up some numbers for that. I'm a little concerned with that, with recycling the way it's going. I don't know what they're doing with their material because all of their curbside was also going to Rocky Mountain Recycling. So there's some concerns with that as well. So what I'm bringing before the council tonight is we either need to go and increase the budget to help fund the bidding program and continue on with it the way it is. You all know the challenges we've had with this, where residents have been leaving the recyclables on the ground. The wind gets a hold of it, blows it around. We've had issues where Washington County, and I've asked them if they're going to increase their trucks or buy new trucks that are coming up and picking these up, and they said no. And so if they go down, they're down for 2-3 weeks where we don't have any service on our binnies. It's a real issue. And so what I'm bringing for the council is I need a decision as to whether we increase the budget or you want me to talk to Recyclops about doing a partnership or whether we end the service.
So when you say opt out, so every mandatory in and then people can opt out?
Yeah.
So
Will you give a little more detail on kind of how they viewed that partnership with us doing billing and that type of stuff? I think that'll be really beneficial.
I think what they're looking, and this is just an assumption on my part, is that they want to enter into a partnership where we would make it mandatory for every resident to opt in. We would add it onto our billing cycle. So we would not only be collecting for our current garbage service, we'd also have to add whatever price this comes in per can to those residents' service. I think what they would prefer is that it's a mandatory, that everybody just has no choice. The other option is the opt-out, where everybody's put in, they've got so long to notify us in writing that they want to be taken off of that. They think that they anticipate they could get 50 to 60% that would stay in. I question those numbers. I don't know that many people would stay in here. But they would want us to bill it.
Depends on the cost.
Yeah, they'd want us to bill it. Then they would want us to transfer that money through to them. And then they would provide the service similar to what they're doing now, where they provide bags. People can put the recyclables in it, set it out. They would pick it up twice a week. And then they take it, and they were transporting it down to Rocky twice a week.
So if the council wants to look at going in that kind of direction.
Twice a month.
Twice a month, not twice a week.
Every other week is what I should have said.
We probably shouldn't just take it for granted that we're going to go with that company. We would probably need to go out for proposals and put it out on the market.
Sure.
But some direction as to what you want us to do would be helpful.
Let me ask
some idea of the cost.
Rocky Mountain
recycle.
Why are they no longer accepting? And if they aren't, what are they doing? Aren't they a recycling company?
They're a distribution center that they collect the recyclables, and then they were batching them up, baling them up, and shipping them and selling them to China. So what they would do is, when we first started this partnership, they would get a price on that commodity that they were selling, and they would transfer that price back to us, and it would help to offset some of the costs of this recycling. It's probably been it's probably about 5 years since we've gotten any kind of residual back from them. They were just taking it, and they were barely making it enough to cover their costs of what they were doing with it. But now their outlet in China has just not taken that recyclable at all. And so they have no market for it. So what they've done is gone to Washington County and just said, we're defaulting on our contract with you. We can't take this material any longer. We're declaring, I'm not even sure what the legal jargon is of what they declare, so that they're not going to be responsible for the contract anymore.
So what do they collect?
Nothing. They're
did they just close their doors?
Essentially out of business is what I understood.
Okay. That's what I was trying to get to.
So
thank you.
so I've done a lot of research on this. So cardboard right now, I think it went from $125 a ton down to $5. You know, and it's just, I mean, the market's just really suffering.
There's no money in it.
China.
These other countries don't want it anymore. And a lot of articles I read, the carbon footprint or the use of other natural resources such as water and electricity to process the recycling costs more and leaves a bigger footprint than taking it to landfill.
Yeah. And our calculations, when we were at 1,600, it was cheaper for us to recycle than sending it out to the landfill. When it went to 3,000 a month, it was kind of break even. Now with this new increase, it's going to cost us more to recycle than it is to put in the landfill. Quite a bit more.
I know we talked about this during budget. Part of the reason it's taken a little while to get back with information is because there've been all of these moving components of wanting to at least have you guys as much actual information as we can before you make a decision.
I'm not sure I feel good about mandatory anything. I mean, you take somebody that maybe is elderly or shut in and they don't notice. And I mean, I just don't know about that.
And my concern with that is, and I don't know what the fate of Washington City's curbside recycling is going to go. Republic is the company that services them, and I'm not sure what they're doing with the material once they collect it.
Who takes the risk on the cans?
Yeah.
Well, they have Republic in Vegas, so maybe it goes to Las Vegas.
Yeah, and I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to have any kind of a market to sell, and I don't know what they're doing with that recyclable either.
It's really a tough call because you can see the finances don't seem to make any sense at all. And yet we're surrounded and we pride ourselves on all of our natural beauty around us and what God has given us, and we should be good stewards of that land. So this is really a tough call, isn't it? Because financially it's upside down.
Yeah. And when you in larger cities, you'll see that the recycling is so critical because they don't have the land mass for their landfills. We still got quite a few years left on our landfill before it's in any way at capacity. So that's not as critical of an issue. So it's more the responsibility for making sure that we keep it clean is the driving force for us doing it. But at some point, there's that cost effectiveness of that, and I think we've hit that.
So I think you bring us back to cost for mandatory or opt out, and then I think we need to fund it until we can make a decision, and also educate the public, through various media or whatever, to the point, so that the bennies just don't disappear one day and everybody says what happened.
Well, you got about 32, 36 in the budget right now.
Yeah.
So we don't have to shut it off on August 8th if that's the decision.
And according to the agreement that we have with Washington County, we have a 60-day notice we got to give anyway. So it'll be a 60-day where we'll continue with the bidding process if you decided to discontinue it, where we would be able to have that kind of education and advertisement.
Those that are using it, you just put up a sign that says we're discontinuing the service and 60 days will be gone.
Well, we would also, if the council says we're going to discontinue, we'd take other ways to notify people. We'd put it in the newsletter. We'd post it online on social media.
That's what I mean.
Do those efforts.
And we currently, when we get calls for recycling, we refer them over to Recycle Up, since that's the only recycling that we have in town right now. So we'd continue to do that. We'd be able to advertise that there is an alternative option if they want to look into that. So,
well, and I don't know where they take it, but I use that service and they're very good and they pick it up and it's great.
Have you got any kind of notice about changes to it?
No, not yet.
I use it too, and I haven't gotten any.
Yeah,
I know we did the survey, about 3 years ago, and I think like $4 a month was the break even that people were willing to pay in that range. So it's pretty low.
We could take Recyclops' numbers and apply those, couldn't we? Do we have good numbers from them on what they would do for a opt-out program?
I don't have any official numbers from them. I know we had a discussion with them, and this was when they first started coming here, talking a little bit about what it would cost. And at that point they estimated, and these are by no means what it would come back as, but this is what I have written in my notes. is that if you do an opt-out and 60% stayed in, so we only had 40% opt-out, you'd be around the $7 range for that. If you did an opt-in and you had at least 30 that agreed to do it, you'd be up in the $10 range. And then a mandatory, they anticipate would be around $6. So those are some numbers they threw out right there in the beginning. I don't know if that would be significantly increased right now, since they, they're going to have to probably be taking it to Vegas as well, or how that would affect those numbers.
What information would the council like between now and probably, I would assume, our next work meeting to be able to kind of move forward and make some decisions?
Well, I'd like to know if we can, and I realize we're going to have to bid this out, but I would appreciate if maybe we had a little more, if they could give us any more updated information, Recyclops. If we were to do something like this, what are the current rates? What might we consider? Not holding anybody to exact numbers, but to give us an idea.
Okay, I can approach them.
Because this was about 2 years ago, year and a half ago or so.
Yeah.
Is there any other information that would be beneficial?
I don't know. Are there other companies that might have an interest here? Nobody's knocking down our doors to.
I haven't heard of any. We used to have Blue Sky in town, and they left 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know of any that do this, this kind of a service. Republic, we had come in and bid it 4 or 5 years ago, and they were quite high. And their issue was, and the big issue is, we don't have a distributor here to take it to.
Yeah.
So it's the transportation of hauling that to St. George at that point. Now it'd be to Vegas or Salt Lake, I assume.
So as soon as we get that additional information, we'll put this back on another work meeting to try to figure out a direction.
Okay.
Does that work with
Sounds
everyone?
good.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks.
Item number 10, review of Cedar City Engineering Standard 2019 update.
Kit, is
I want
this,
you to know, Kit,
is
this
this
was-
the same list I saw last night?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Not that I'm going to nod off or anything.
Okay.
I want you to know, kid, this was really exciting reading. I want you to
I
know.
just think
Nobody
it's a
nods off
very
during this
thorough
meeting.
list.
Chief Mike brought visual aids and everything for you guys.
I know.
Okay. So every 2 or 3 years, we update our engineering standards. There's new products out there that are put in our systems, our sewer, water, streets, other parts of our infrastructure. So we just try to keep up to date on what we need out there. And this year we've got 33 changes that we're going to be making. And I don't want to put y'all to sleep, but I'll just really go through this as fast as I can. Let's see, water, and most of these changes have been recommended by the different department heads in Public Works as they see things that need to be improved. The first one is the water system. The water department's been having problems with high water pressures in certain areas, and those high water pressures affect their meters. And wherever there's more than 80 PSI in our water system, they're proposing that we put a pressure reducing valve upstream of the water meters so that those water meters don't get damaged. Number two.
So would that eliminate the need for one on a home, Kit, or would that, or
No.
they'd still have to have one on a
No,
home as well?
we're not going to control the pressure in the home. So,
Yeah, we have a couple of areas where we have these PRVs, and we still get homeowners coming in occasionally telling us that there's some spikes occasionally. So
where we have sewer water lateral or sewer cleanouts, sewer lateral cleanouts in commercial and industrial properties, we're going to require that those cleanouts be contained in a with a certain cap and lid on them, and also a ring and cover, so that those cleanouts don't get damaged as they're plowing snow and things in cleanouts or in the parking lot. So if they break off the cleanout lid, then we get dirt and asphalt and everything else in our sewer line. So we want to make sure those are protected. And the next one is the clean outs on temporary cul-de-sacs in the city. It's basically the same thing. We want them to, when they do a development that has a temporary cul-de-sac on it, we want those sewer clean outs to come up in that cul-de-sac in a way that they're not going to be damaged down the road as our street department plows snow or whatever. The water department has gone to Neptune water meters. And whenever we go to a new water meter, in order for them to electronically read those water meters, they need to have a certain type of lid on the meter. So to do that, and so we're changing the lids to accommodate those Neptune water meters. We got a detail on backflow preventers. We're going to modify that detail to put an additional valve in those two backflow preventer details that is just a better valve backflow assembly in those. Let's see, on the downstream pipe. Okay, the downstream pipe reducer in the W7 water meter assembly, that's going to be moved actually 20 feet downstream of the water meter. So that they calm down the flow once it goes through the water calms down once it goes through the reducer and into the meter, so we get more accurate readings on that. All flow meters in all water meter vaults need to be, all water meters in the city need to be purchased from the city. So that we've got a standard water meter out there that they can read with their electronic readers, and we don't have a lot of variation in our water meters.
Is that not the case now?
No, there's places where we've got different water meters. So, W8 detail, stating that the culinary water connections are not going to be allowed to fire sprinkler supply lines. Okay, so we're not going to be able to connect a culinary water pipe to a fire sprinkler supply line unless the sprinkler system is an R4 or no, it's a 1.3R or a 13R or 13D with proper backflow devices. A new detail that we're adding as required by the state for water lines that go underneath a channel. Okay, the state's got this certain detail that they want us to put in our standards for any water line that goes underneath the channel. And then as part of that, they're also going to put in some sampling devices on each side of that loop that goes underneath the channel, so it can be tested to make sure that the water in the channel is not getting into the culinary water line. There's a change we're going to be making to cross gutters. Cross gutter is that concrete channel that goes across a intersection, and we've had some problems with those kind of breaking up because they don't get the rebar mat up in the middle of the concrete. So they're using just bricks, or they're using plastic, what we call rebar chairs. We're going to require them to use just the steel 3-inch rebar chairs. So they're 3 inches is halfway up into that concrete section. Let's see, residential driveways, especially the residential driveways that serve a PUD or commercial driveways that serve a business. We're going to require where they have commercial pickup, we're going to require them to have rebar in their driveways so that, because their driveways are basically our sidewalks in a lot of cases, and we don't want those sidewalks to be broken up as they drive those heavy commercial garbage trucks through there.
That would mostly be in apartment complexes though, wouldn't it? I mean,
or PUDs. Yeah, PUDs also have commercial trash pickup in PUDs.
Okay.
So, and then another thing we're gonna require is that if you got a driveway over a certain length, that you've got to put it can't be all driveway. There's got to be a section in that driveway where if pedestrians are crossing it, they can get to kind of a point of safety on a raised curb. And so we're going to require that if the driveway is so long, they need to put one of those raised curves in the middle so that it kind of protects the pedestrians that are walking through the driveway. A new detail is going to be added for a private irrigation pipe that crosses a city sidewalk. And this is there's several of these that we've added in. The city's pretty much taken over the irrigation system in the city. And a lot of these, several of these new details apply to that, that change in the irrigation system. So one thing we're going to put in a detail on how the pipe gets out of the irrigation curb and through the sidewalk and into the lot. So we're adding a detail for that. Let's see, there's a new typical plan for a mid-block irrigation ditch system. It just kind of lays out the irrigation ditch system from the time it goes out of the curb, goes through the lot, and then goes back into the curb on the other side of the block. So we're putting in just a standard typical plan for that. There's new, let's see, typical, we're putting in a typical section for paved trails that's being added in. And we're also putting in a typical section for paved trails that run right along a hillside where we've got to put a retaining wall to protect the trail so that the hill doesn't slough off onto the trail. So we're adding a retaining wall detail in there for those trails. Let's see. Okay. This is one that we've talked about. We're going to be putting in 2-inch conduits, PVC conduits on all water and storm drain, along all water and storm drain pipes, any pipes that are put in by developers or by the city. We'll put in those conduits in so that the communication companies around town have the ability to use that conduit versus going out and cutting in the street and putting in separate conduits for that. Let's see. There's two details in here, 20 and 21. Those are survey monuments that we put in the center of street so that people, when they get their lot surveyed, they can go out and tie onto our coordinate system with this survey monument, and the whole city's on the same coordinate system. Cedar City's had our own coordinate system for a long time, and it's worked pretty good, and we get a lot of use out of that. So let's see. This is another one on the sewer laterals. We're going to also require those sewer laterals have the metal caps on that I talked about earlier, where they come up in a commercial parking lot. They need to have those on them. Let's see, in one item that the sewer department is asked to have in here is that for any sewer manholes that have a 15-inch line coming into it, they need to be coated with an acid-resistant coating. We Yeah, I still got you guys awake. You're smiling.
They're enthralled. I've been watching the body language. It's
Yeah.
quite
Okay,
entertaining.
we're getting close here. So let me just finish this up.
Kenny's having a problem in the back, but everybody else.
Okay, come on, Kenny. Yeah, we did your two details on the trail. So
Mike's
Get
just
on.
like patiently waiting like a little child
Yeah.
to do his demonstration.
okay.
I'm just glad you haven't recommended we go gender neutral on our manhole names. So
I think Eric proposed that, but
what's that?
no, not really. Okay.
He was going to do that just to see if people were still awake.
And it should.
That would have been fun.
That would have been really funny.
We're changing our detail a little bit on our sewer lift stations in order to facilitate a little easier maintenance on those. We're going to put in removable roofs on those. The LED street lights, we're going to change the light color on those just a little bit. Right now we've got a 5,000 color, which is a more white light. We're going to go down to 3,000, which is a more yellow light and looks like a more natural light than the white LED type lights. On new fire hydrants, the fire department's asking that we put an integral stores connection on our fire hydrant so that they can just fire department here. Mike, you want to explain that one? Okay.
Considering you brought a visual aid,
Yeah.
Visual aid, cool. So if anybody's torque
he's
goes
just been
off,
waiting
they can
back
just
there.
done the demonstration.
Mike Phillips here for City Council Show and Tell. I just have a piece of equipment that costs less than $1,000. I want to make that disclosure first.
$99.99.
Paul thinks everything I buy is expensive. Anyway, it's a sexless connection. It's a Storch, so you just pop it on and pop it off. We've changed all of our large diameter hose to that Storch connection, so it just makes it so we can more efficiently and faster hook up to the hydrant.
What's the locking device on that? I forgot to ask you that when you brought it up here.
Just these two little buttons right here that lock it on it.
So are we going to have any issues with that?
We're
With
chained to the
public
hydrant just
playing
like
with
the other
them,
ones.
You think? I mean, the others, I know they have to sit and.
I've seen them in a
unscrew
lot
it
of
with the bigger
communities I've
edge.
traveled through,
I
and
just
I've never
wondered.
seen any of them missing the caps.
Will we be changing all of our hydrants out then to that if we adopt this?
Just new development,
New
and then as they're
development,
replaced.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And you said that there's no incremental cost.
Yeah, talking to Robbie, that's the same cost to go with the Storts or the threaded hose.
Are there any other questions for Mike's
That's the
show
right
and
answer.
tell?
No, we appreciate that, Chief.
Yeah.
Okay, 6 more items. Here we go. The water department's requested that we put an item in here that makes it so that when developers come out and tie onto the water main, that they space those water laterals at least 3 feet apart, where they've got several water laterals coming out and tying on the main, because they found that you space them too close together, the pressure in the pipe eventually causes the pipe to split. It's like putting perforations in the pipe, and then that's the easiest place to tear it open. So we're putting in there that those connections have to be at least 3 feet apart. The sewer department on their lift stations, they want to have an additional type of pump approved in those lift stations. They're Rhino pumps by Ibarra that they want put in the standards. We've got a really good SCADA system out on our water and sewer system. It's called the Dorset SCADA system, and we're just requiring that any new lift stations that be put in, they be put in with that Dorset SCADA system. The next one is just some drinking water standards that need to go in our standards to make sure that we're conforming with the state requirements on drinking water standards. And there's the second to the last one is if we have above, if if we have a pipe that goes through a channel, but it's sitting above the water, that pipe's got to be supported in a certain way according to the state guidelines as it goes across that channel. And last but not least is the underwater crossings. I think I mentioned this before, but we've put 2 standards in here for going underneath water channels. So that's it.
Okay, can I have a question on the Rhino pump or whatever it was you're talking about? Is that just a brand or is that a type? Because I don't want to tie us into a brand if all of a sudden it's no longer being made or anything like that.
That's a brand, but we also have another brand of sewer lift station pumps that we've used for a long time, Flight. So
we're not worried about that.
Gives us an additional brand of pump.
All right.
Now, we did hear this at Planning Commission last night, and we gave a positive recommendation for the adoption of all of these standards. I just for the record.
All right. Are there any other?
My only question is,
this is approved by resolution, and Tyler's made this.
I'm assuming most of this is obviously set up for safety issues and for all across the board for a whole host of reasons. I guess my real question is, what do we think or can we even put an aggregate cost of what this might mean to a new development or a new homeowner or anything like this with these new standards or new upgrades? Is that even possible?
It's probably, you could probably put some sort of cost to it, but I don't know that it's going to be significant what they're using now.
Okay.
There's really not too many significant.
Just new and improved versions of kind of what we're already doing in most cases.
Pretty much.
Okay.
You ever thought any more, kid, about going to PVC instead of a ductile iron for water lines?
Well, that's going to have to be a discussion with Public Works and the Water Department.
Because isn't it, is it, tell us real quick about the ductile versus what's the lifespan of the ductile iron versus the PVC?
I really can't predict what that would be. I know we've had ductile iron in our system for at least probably 40 years and with, very few problems with that. And I think the water department's just gotten used to that, and they have all the equipment to make those repairs on the ductile iron water lines and tap them and things. And we really haven't seen any problems with corrosion on.
So they do last,
On the
so it doesn't rust.
Yeah.
How do we compare to other communities as far as using that instead of the PVC?
You'll see communities using all the different types of pipes, whether they might be using high pressure polyethylene, the fused pipe, or
HDPE.
They might HDPE basically, and then which is the fused pipe, or the PVC pipe, which is Bell and Spigot PVC pipe, plastic pipe, or ductile iron. A lot of people still
Lately,
use
I've
ductile
just
iron.
heard a lot of discussion in the community with contractors and whatnot complaining about the cost. And so I didn't know if there's something that we could do with that or not.
If you would like,
can
we
have
could
that
have Robbie come and talk about it.
That'd be a good idea.
We'll get him here to come and kind of go through.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions?
All right, this will go on the action agenda. You kept everyone awake.
Hey.
All right, I number 1, committee appointments, and I emailed these out to everyone. I did not get them to Renan in time because I was still trying to wait to hear back from some people, and finally I still haven't heard back from everyone. So we'll be doing committee assignments more than once in the next few months just to get everyone done. But I'll just really quick go through Airport Board. Jill Schuler, I'm recommending to reappoint her, reappoint Mark Levitt. And then for our other seat I'm recommending Maria Twitchell. The Board of Adjustments, we have 3 seats, John Aspey, Janet McCrae, and Jill Peterson. I'm recommending we reappoint all of them. For the Historic Downtown, some of those, we have to have a Utah Shakespeare Festival representative. Michael Bars resigned, so I'm recommending John Jersey, and we reappoint Marie Twitchell, and we have one more that's resigned that I'm waiting to hear back on. Planning Commission, I would recommend we reappoint Jenny Hendricks. We have our new Active Transportation Committee, and the members I'm recommending Scott Phillips, Cal Lloyd, Rand Colbert, Jason Ramirez, Jackie Grant, Tyler Farling, Matt Curie, Carter Wilkie, Dave Jacobson, and Ben Davidson. And then I will be bringing a bunch more committee assignments in the future.
Do you have heard back from those individuals except for maybe one you indicated?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we're good with that going on consent?
I am.
Okay. And with that,
Move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I know. Seriously. Seriously. If nothing else, we got to make sure for that reason alone.
What my critical need is.
Get rid of that.
Value.
Instead of no other reason than that, we got to make sure you discuss it.
That's right.
We can get out of here. Evil.